Hey guys, my name is Divya. I am a doctor and I have been in a management role with a healthcare company for a while. Management exams really attract me, so I recently took the SHRM exam, SHRM-SCP exam, and I've been doing a series of videos to help everybody out in the community to help get certified. I do hope these videos are helping you. If they are, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. It would help me make more videos and keep me motivated. Okay, so today's video is dedicated to all the random questions that I've received. Thank you so much for the questions, the comments. It really keeps me going. It really keeps me motivated and makes me realize that somebody out there is actually watching. So thank you so much, guys. So here we go. Let's start with all the questions I have received. Question number 1. Did I take an instructor-led class? The answer to this is easy. No, I did not take an instructor-led class for the SHRM-SCP preparation. I would have probably liked to do it. I passed the exam on the first attempt without an instructor-led class, but I really wanted to try giving or attempting the exam once without a class, and it's worked out well for me. I've noticed that in a lot of online classes which I've taken for prior certifications, it helped in a very odd sort of a manner, but if you try to study, self-study and be slightly disciplined, I don't call myself too disciplined, but just slightly disciplined, then you can really crack it. And that's what I tried to do with this exam. Just read, review, attempt all the quizzes and exams, all the good stuff, and I think it really worked out well for me. Okay, question number 2, and really received a lot. How long did I study for the SHRM-SCP exam? So this question is so important. I have an entire video dedicated to it. I will leave the link in the description box below. You can check it out. So I studied for 3 to 6 months. And why do I give this range? I think it was a duration of 6 months, but the actual studying was actually about like 3 to 4 months. The reason being, I didn't study every day. There were days, there were weeks that I couldn't look at the notes. There was no time. I have a full-time job. Like most people out there, they're doing something or the other. Even if you're not working full-time, you have a family, you have other responsibilities. Maybe you are in school. Some people try to take this certification while they're in college or university, and they're doing this on the side or preparing for it on the side, so they're ready sooner. Either way, there's always too much to do, and yeah, that's my answer. So I studied for 3 to 6 months, and how long you need to study really depends on your situation. So I highly recommend that you evaluate that. You need to put in a good 3 to 4 months of actual studying, whether you spread that over 6 months or a year or whatever time the frame that suits you. It's really up to you. Okay, question number 3. I did not score a 200 on my practice exam that's offered in the learning management system. Am I ready to take the exam or should I cancel? So again, I've done a whole series of videos on practice exams and post-tests and how much we should be scoring. The gist of the matter and the fact of the matter is that it doesn't really matter how much you score on a practice exam, right? What matters is the actual exam. So my initial assessments and other exams and other tests, they weren't looking so good. I did score a 200 on my practice exam, but believe me, I didn't really feel confident. Meaning it's not like it gives you the best exhilaration and then you feel you're ready and you can take anything on. In fact, if anything, you should tell yourself not to get overconfident if you score well, and not to be diffident if you don't score a 200. The entire point, regardless of your score on the practice exam, is to go back, review all the answers, wrong and right answers, and then go back to review the sections in the material, in the study material, so that you can actually cement your knowledge. That's really the point of it, right? So let's look at it that way. So if you're, a little lower than 200, just go back and study and learn. That's the point of it. You can make your mistakes now rather than fretting over it later. So whether you want to keep that exam date or not is really up to you. Okay, question number 4. I did not score an 80% on the post-tests or the initial assessments. Am I ready for the exam? So this really ties into the previous question, right? We all think that there is a certain percentage and there's a certain score that we need to achieve in our practice exams and our post tests, and if we don't achieve it, we're going to fail the actual exam. So my initial assessments were definitely not an 80%. Again, as I said, I've done an entire series on it, and my initial assessment 1 and 2, the scores went down, and my post test had similar scores but for the CP level and the SCP level, but neither of them were at an 80%. I was at a much lower percentage. So the reality is that I went back and reviewed my exams. It took me 2 days. 2 days to review any exam. If I took it on day 1, I would, mark days 2 and 3 as review days and review every single answer and even study some of the material where I felt like, studying would actually help. And that is what helped me remember things, helped me apply things, and take the actual exam. Question number 5 ties into the previous 2 questions. I am not scoring very high on my quizzes. It is between a 60 to 80%. Am I ready for the exam, or is this a problem? So when I received this question, I was honestly smiling because this is something that I really wanted to share, but I've missed sharing it in my previous videos. My quiz scores went up and down a lot. There were certain sections where I was able to score high, and there were certain sections where I've even scored a 0. Believe it or not, this is the truth. And I felt like I'd studied and I got a 0 on my quiz. These things happen. We just have to understand the question. We just have to understand the material, and more importantly, reread the question. Sometimes we've just missed reading the question or weren't paying attention, and it's really obvious later on. The other anecdote I really wanted to share. A lot of times I took the quizzes a little later. So if I had done it in, let's say, March, I would look at the same quiz, let's say in April or May. And lo and behold, there were times I got the same questions wrong. I felt embarrassed about these things, but you know what? It's good to put it out there and just, again, learn from it and move on. Repetition is the mother of learning. If you've made the same mistake twice, it's okay, but hey, just don't make it a third time and you'll be just fine. Okay guys, we're more than halfway through. So question number 6. Was I part of a study group? So a lot of people have messaged me asking me if I were part of a study group. I wasn't, and the answer is again the same. With a full-time job, a child, a family, and everything that I was doing, I couldn't be part of a study group. None of the timings, matched my timings, and it just didn't work out. I do recommend study groups because they help people. Sort of brainstorm a lot of ideas and what they should and shouldn't be doing. Just ensure that your study group isn't your only form of studying, because you do have to spend the time, sit down with your notes and actually look at them and actually quiz yourself, which is really, really important. Okay, question number 7. I am a fresher. Do you think this will affect my score? So, in real life, it's always good to have experience because it helps you in ways more than one. On an exam like this one, I really feel it's more about the studying and the effort that you put in while studying rather than your experience. This is really just a personal opinion. So I think if you are a fresher and you study well, you really stand a good chance. A lot of people have said that the situational judgment questions would throw them off because they're freshers or they only have 1 or 2 years of experience and they don't have decades and decades. So the SJTs, they really test your judgment based on the situation given, but I don't think they're really testing your experience. Because it's in a global setup, right? If you have experience, usually it's in 1 or 2 countries or 1 or 2 states, or 3 or 4 regions. But then this is really from the point of view of making a judgment based on whatever was mentioned in the question. So this is what I have to say. Regardless of the number of years of experience you have, whether it's 0 or more or decades, you'll have to study. Just study for the exam, do everything in the learning management system, and I think you're going to be just fine. Okay guys, question number 8, and this is my last question. People have asked me whether this certification is even worth it because of the passing rate. So the question really was, the passing rate is 53% or lower. Is it even worth it? Sounds like every other person fails. So this is, again, it ties back into whether the glass is half full or it's half empty. And I really encourage you to be positive. You could be the every other person who passes. And hey, if a lot of people pass, then it just increases the passing percentage. Let's try and focus on that. And I think if you study well, just review your notes, actively recall the material, take the quizzes and the tests, then you'll be just fine. So I hope that this video made sense and it helped you guys out. Thank you so much for watching.